other things. So what would you say are the, say, top three most important things that a master's age runner
Yeah.
could do to reduce their risk of injury? What would be the top three things you would advise?
So number one is calves, definitely for the masters runner, because that's where a large number of injuries occur. Calf strains and Achilles problems. They would be probably the two things I see most in the runner over 40. So calves, basically get them
Yep.
stronger. And you're saying tears. So it needs to be, there's no point in you doing sort of reps of 30 calf raises off the edge of a step with just body weight, because that loading is not going to load a muscle in a way that we get either hypertrophy changes or positive tendon adaptation. So we know tendons need heavy, slow loading to change in a positive way. And if we're trying to get hypertrophy, we know we also need heavy, slow loading. So that could look like single leg, full range calf raises off the edge of a step, but with some weight, building up to it if you're not used to it, but building up to maybe having a rucksack on the back with 10 kilos in it in books or bottles of water, and really working in those lower rep ranges of maybe 6 to 8 reps and 3 or 4 sets a couple of times a week. And then if we think about, depending on what type of runner you are, if you're an off-road runner, trail runner, any sort of hills, quads are probably then next. Knee pain and even knee health has been shown to be better if you keep your quads strong. So if we go back to the arthritis conversation, if you want to reduce that risk even further, quad strength. And again, how do we do that? So that could be isolated quads work in the gym on something like a knee extension machine, which in the past has been sort of been not an exercise that has been like thought as non-functional, but strong quads are strong quads. Or it could be variations on squats or lunges. But again, I would go back to that principle of making sure it's challenging enough. So it's relatively heavy, it's a relatively slow exercise, and you're in those lower rep ranges, but those rep ranges are challenging. So if you're doing sets of 8, there's no point doing an exercise where you do 8 reps where you have the capacity to do 20 in that set. If you're getting to 8, you should only feel like I maybe had 3 or 4 max good reps left in the tank before beyond that, I mean, the classic one is lazy glutes in runners. That's probably a bit of a myth that we need to get rid of, but there's nothing wrong with strengthening glutes, hamstrings, and definitely trunk. We tend to find it harder to maintain a good trunk position as we fatigue, and it's an area again that will potentially just gradually get a bit weaker as we age. So doing some good trunk work alongside that would be useful. That could be done more in the forms of just simple plank work or things along those lines, basically.